Hey everyone, welcome. Hi Mary, hi Regina, hi Brenda. Good to see you all jumping on. My voice is very low today. I'm dealing with a head cold. I feel like it's probably very appropriate for speaking about the shadow. So this low voice, we're going into the depths today, including my voice. Thanks everyone. Nice to see you, Mary. Nice to see you, Margaret. This is a beautiful topic today, the shadow. I'm really, in many ways, humbled and honored to talk about it today because I do feel shadow work is some of the most transformational work we can do on ourselves. And it's also quite misunderstood. So I'm hoping that maybe even just a little bit of what I share today will be both inspiring to you and, one of the main things when we start to talk about shadow is fear comes up and we want to go into avoidance of it. And ironically, the more we avoid our shadow, the more it actually can take over our life. So once we understand that, being in alignment, working with our shadow, befriending our shadow, observing our shadow, knowing our shadow is always going to be there, we actually, I believe, get more agency. And not that we ever have full control of our life, because we certainly don't. But we're more, we have a little bit more of the reins when we are in more contact with our shadows. So I'm glad to have you all on with me today. We're going to just jump right in because there's so much to talk about. I do want to say that when we do shadow work, and even today, I'm going to certainly present some intellectual material. I love the intellect. I love the left linear brain. I think it's actually really good for us to have some framework for what the shadow is, how it shows up for us, how we can access it. But I really hope that the majority of this time today is doing a little bit more of a practice. So I don't know if all of you are in spaces and places where you can actually drop in and do a little bit of practice. This is recorded, so if you're somewhere that you need to practice later, I encourage you to do it. It's going to be pretty brief, 15 minutes. But to really access shadow and the material that's in it, we have to enter more of an altered state of consciousness. We can't be in this rational, linear, analytical place where, most of us spend the majority of our day. And so we sort of have to go through the back door, so to speak. So I am going to guide us into an opportunity to tap in, touch in, feel in to an aspect of your shadow today, get to know it, befriend it, learn from it, speak to it. So I definitely want to create space for that. And then there often are a lot of questions that rise up around shadow. Again, it can be quite misunderstood. So I'm hoping that we'll also have some time at the end to go into questions. Feel free to put questions in the Q&A box or the chat. And at the end, if there's time, we will definitely get into those. All right, let's start here. And I'm going to go through these first couple of slides quickly. I do believe that our shadow is the source of our strength, and it again is the most transformative work we can do. Here's a little bit about me. If you're new to my work and the work that we're going to talk about today, and there's lots of things going on. There's always Wisdom Wednesday, which is always the first Wednesday of every month. Got a podcast. There's a retreat coming up in Costa Rica. Also in February, starting a longer certification program. So if you're a yoga teacher or a therapist, I'm going to be working with a certification program that integrates really yoga and psychology, sort of brings the two of them together in hopefully a way that's more integrated. Also, by the way, I'm in the midst of teaching a 9-week course, which is true, just deep shadow work. We're working with goddess energy, working with heroine's journey energy. We're already 2 weeks in, but if today's topic really speaks to you and you're like, I'm really hungry for more, reach out to us, info@heartlandyoga.com, and we'll get you in to this course. It's not too late to necessarily join. All right, so we have to do some pre-work before we even agree to start to tap into shadow. If you've done any work with me, I pull up this 4 agreements, which is the work of Don Miguel Ruiz a lot, specifically the one that I feel like really comes into play when we're working with shadows, to not take anything personally. So this means that so much of how we can understand our shadows through what we project onto other people or what gets projected onto us. And so this idea of really understanding that the way other people treat us or respond and react to us truly has nothing to do with us. It's about their own story that they're in. So I always put 4 agreements up at the start of any deep work. I also want to say that when we work with shadow, it's really key that we suspend our judgments, not only of ourselves, but of others. So trying to stay in as neutral and curious. I feel like curiosity is key here. When we stay curious, it really actually does, I believe, allow us to float above the judgment that so often takes hold when we're attempting to work with our shadow or we see someone else's shadow. So coming from a place of curiosity is so helpful. I also believe that coming from a place of compassion is so helpful, as is understanding what Kristen Neff calls our shared humanity, meaning that every single one of us has shadow. Every single one of us has parts of ourselves that we've repressed and pushed away, and we never are free of our shadow. Does not matter how much shadow work we do in a lifetime, there's always more. So there's a lot of humility and again, when we can be curious, that we can bring to this, to know that, we can be doing this work forever, but there are benefits. If you're saying like, I'm going to be stuck in this work forever, why do I even start? We'll talk here in a moment. What are the benefits of why we would even do shadow work? So maybe even just place a hand on your heart, or just make an internal commitment to yourself that as best as I can, I'm going to work with my own non-judgment and curiosity and compassion as I explore this topic of shadow work as it relates to myself. Okay. So what is the shadow? Gosh, there's so many definitions. I really, truly believe our shadow is anything that's in the subconscious mind. And subconscious mind is really the majority of our mind. The iceberg is often used as a symbol of our mind, and only about, they say about 10% of our mind is above the surface. It's the conscious part of us. It's the executive functioning. It's our frontal lobes. That's sort of the part of us that is, using analytical, rational thinking. But so much of our decision making, so much of what drives us, so much of what we're drawn to or repelled by is coming from this subconscious mind. And you can even see some of the data here from science that the subconscious mind processes a lot of information per second, whereas the conscious mind processes significantly less. So really, I know for myself as a true seeker, I am so curious about my subconscious mind. I always have been. And really in the last, 10 to 15 years, I've been much more committed to trying to lower that line. Joseph Campbell often has the image of a circle with a line through it. And he said, our work is to try to lower the line, try to get underneath the line to basically reclaim more of who we are. That whole iceberg is you. Right? And if you only know about a small portion of it, what would it be like if you could start to reclaim and bring more of these aspects of self that really you're unaware of at this point? And again, I do believe that in our lifetime, we're not going to ever know the true totality of who we are. that there are certainly tools, techniques, experiences that can help us tap in to what I really believe is our greatness. Now, of course, under the surface is stuff that we have disowned, we've rejected. There's often a lot of shame, guilt, fear, anger in the underworld, we might say. But there is also our potential and our magic and our greatest strengths in many ways. So there's a psychologist named Dr. Barry Michaels who does a lot of shadow work, and I love his description. He calls our shadow a very strange and beautiful paradox, because our darkest traits are in the shadow as well as our brightest light. And I had a teacher once say that the more willing you are to go in and do your shadow work, the lighter you will become. So that's the irony. The more we're willing to dive into our depths and our darkness, the more light that we can exude into the world. So our goal with our shadow is to definitely befriend it, not reject it. And I have to admit that this is just a new lesson. I mean, I think I've always known this idea of befriending our shadow, but it came to me very clearly just in the last month, how I'm still trying to reject and cut out, dismantle, get rid of, let go of aspects of my shadow instead of befriend it. So I went on a retreat recently in Spain. It was a 5-day, really intensive, energetic retreat. And I was working with some shadow material in my body. And this is part of what we're going to do as we move into our experiential part of this talk today, is that our body carries the subconscious. It carries shadow material. And I, having worked in my body somatically for so many years, know that I carry a lot of constriction in the right side of my pelvis. There's a lot of tightness, a lot of pain. It's both in the front and the back. I've been very aware of it. I've been feeling like I've been working with it for a very long time, but it wasn't until this in-depth retreat where we were really thrown into the depths of our shadow, that I realized that my technique of trying to cut it out, burn through it, let it go, release it, cut it out of my body, so to speak, is not working. That's actually what I've been trying to do for years and years and years with this area of my body, that instead, what the work is befriending it, hugging it, seeing it, knowing it, allowing it to be there. And through that, it may then transform, right? It may alchemize into something different. It may not. This pain in my right pelvis might stay like this. You know, shadow work is, can I see it and be with it and love it, versus say, damn it, I don't like you. I don't like this pain. You need to be gone. And on some level, that's what I've been doing. So this awareness that our shadow is not meant to be cut out. Our shadow is actually meant to be integrated, befriended. Joseph Campbell often talked about it as we need to learn to hug our dragons. So whatever dragons are in us that we really want to either ignore or shut down or kill, the work is to hug them and see them as part of us versus something as separate. So this is a key thing. Can we learn to befriend our shadow versus fight against it? So why would we ever want to do this work? You know, we definitely, most of us, through much of our life, we avoid it, or we're very scared of it. And this is a very well-known quote by the teacher. Carl Jung was the one who actually coined the term the unconscious mind, and really was sort of the father of shadow work in many ways. But this quote is that until you make the unconscious conscious, so until you bring what's under the surface up to the surface, it's going to direct your life, and you're just going to call it fate, right? That car accident or that job loss or, that incident at work, that was fate, that was bad luck. Jung would say, no, that was your unconscious mind coming to knock on your door because you haven't been facing your unconscious, because you haven't been acknowledging it. It will come to you. So this is the deal with our subconscious mind, our shadow. It's going to come to you no matter what, right? So now you get to decide, am I actually going to interact with it, listen to it, follow through on what it's telling me? Am I going to actually befriend it, or am I going to completely ignore it and it's still going to show up? And it's going to show up most likely in a much more shocking, sometimes dramatic way if we don't actually work with it. So essentially, this is also, I think, one of the ironies of the shadow, the more we push it away, the more we ignore it, the stronger it gets. So let me give you a couple examples of how the shadow might explode into our life when we've been ignoring it. This might be the really polite, kind, sort of passive, sweet person that suddenly out of nowhere explodes into rage, right? That's shadow coming up and out. Or the extremely disciplined person who is very disciplined in what they eat and how they move their bodies and what they allow into their lives, goes on a complete binge over a weekend. A well-known one that we see often is the famous religious leader who is talking negatively about homosexuality and then is found in a gay nightclub, right? These are examples of shadow material coming up and out. And again, the shadow is going to come to all of us. It's just, are we going to work with it consciously, or is it going to come up and out with our unknowingness? We'll know when it comes up and out. But can we work with it in some ways more gradually and more regularly? I would say that I do a little bit of shadow work almost every day in different ways. And again, we'll talk about what that means. So why do we want to do this? Well, first of all, we start to get free from some of our conditioning. We've all been conditioned by families, by school systems, by educational systems, by government systems. We've all been conditioned in ways that often box us in. So shadow work really helps us see our patterning and whether it's actually helping us or harming us. I also think shadow work can definitely improve our relationships. We feel more whole. And as we start to reclaim more of ourself, more of what's under the surface, we definitely can feel an increased vitality. It makes me think of several people that I know that are in their 70s and 80s, and they've been consistently doing work with themselves, continuing to curiously reclaim more of themselves that they didn't know about. And these people, no matter their age, are some of the most vibrant and vital people I know, because they keep integrating and bringing more of themselves to the table. We can also think of older people we know, or, doesn't matter what age, people that are so distanced from themselves that they're quite numbed out. They're not really functioning on all cylinders. So why do we work with shadow? Because it makes us more alive, essentially. So what is in the shadow? I mean, here's a list, but the shadow is unknown. So we don't really fully know everything that's in our shadow. I want to bring attention to this beautiful painting, which is from Carl Jung's diary, the Red Book. It's a huge book. In fact, I have it here. It's actually huge, so I'm not going to hold it up. This is a picture of what he calls chaos. What's in the subconscious mind? There is chaos, there is fear, there is anger, there's judgment, there's shame, there is our wounded child, there is our saboteur, there is our victim, There is grief, but there's also a whole lot of beauty and a whole lot of light and a whole lot of untapped resources. So this is why I think over the years, I've been willing to keep traversing back into the shadow, because I do see I have been able to recapture, reclaim some of my own gifts. It doesn't mean that I'm also not bumping into all my shit, because I definitely am. It's all in there, right? It's all in there. Now, this slide is a little bit misleading because your shadow's always present. Your subconscious mind is always at play. It's always functioning in your life. It's always driving you at a level that you're, usually unaware of. But these are some, I believe, some signs that your shadow's really knocking on your door. It's really saying, please befriend me, pay attention to me, bring awareness to me. I want to teach you something. There's something here. And I do think actually our shadow, our subconscious mind, is our truest teacher. But when you find yourself overly critical of yourself, or overly critical of anyone else for that matter, criticism is such a sign that our shadow is poking up. It's trying to get our attention. And when we're really critical of someone, it's often projection. Projection is this idea that we're attributing, we're seeing qualities in someone else that we can see so clearly. Often we can see the negative qualities so well. For years, I was projecting so much onto my partner. I could see all of the negative qualities in him, which were actually my own negative qualities. So we tend to project often on people that we're close to or we know well. It doesn't mean that that person we're projecting on doesn't have that quality as well, but we often, projection is when we're blind to the existence of it in ourselves. Another sign our shadow's like, hello, wake up, is that we're doing something that's not good for us. One of the archetypes that's so present in our shadow is the addict. And I think all of us are addicts on some level. There are the clear addictions of, alcohol, drugs, food, but all of us can become stuck in addictive patterning. Addiction is any behavior that allows us to not feel our feelings, to not be really fully alive or present in our life. It helps numb us out from the challenges of life. So when we're aware that going back to the refrigerator for the 4th time for another piece of chocolate is not good for us, but we do it anyway, our shadow is, knocking at the door. There's something there for us. Anytime we're defensive, reactive, reactivity is always activated shadow material. So whatever you get reactive against, it could be something on TV, it could be the driver in front of you, it could be a family member, it could be something going on at work. Anytime we have a big emotional reaction to something, it's something from our shadow that's coming up. And again, shadow is not bad. We have, again, painted it as very negative and bad. It is beautiful. It is both and, right? It's not all dark. It's not all light either. These last two feel really important to me. And I would say that I see these qualities often in women, and I see these qualities in myself for sure, so I can own that as well. But when we get excessively positive, or we have this excessive need to make everyone happy, to please everyone around us, this is definitely shadow material. Positivity distances us from our shadow. So sometimes when we're like excessively positive, everything is great, I'm always looking for the good, there's nothing wrong, I'm so grateful for everything in my life, it may seem that we have no shadow, which is totally false. We all have a shadow. Every single one of us has a shadow. So when we are stuck in positivity all the time, it really distances us from our shadow material. As well as being emotionally numb, that also keeps us very safe from anything in our shadow, which, let's take a moment just to say that sometimes this is okay. I'm a big fan of the acronym TTP, which is basically just trust the process. I can look back on my life and see there were distinct periods in my life where I didn't have the energy to do shadow work. I didn't have the emotional stability to do shadow work. I didn't have the time to do shadow work. Shadow work, I often believe, is the work of the second half of life. It often starts to bubble up for us during our midlife years and get stronger and stronger unless we address it. But there are times in our life where it's just, we're not going to be doing potentially a lot of depth shadow work. Can you trust the process? But when you are bumping up against challenge, when you're finding yourself extremely critical, when you're noticing a lot of anxiety, when you're stuck in a depression, these are often the signpost of like, okay, it's time. It is time to get in there and do this shadow work. It is time to start to see what's really under the surface. What really are the roots of this anxiety? What are the roots of this depression? So, yeah, so just some grace with yourself that there may be times when you're not ready for it yet. And that's honest. That's really honest. So here I've been talking about the shadow, why we want to work with it. It's got good stuff in it as well as challenging stuff. But how the heck do we access it? First and foremost, life is going to continuously show you your shadow. What triggers you? What pisses you off? What throws you off? Where do you get frustrated, constricted, tight? The triggers that are happening in our life are always a pathway in to working with our shadow. As are addictions. I already mentioned addiction, but addiction is definitely a pathway in to working with shadow. One of the ways I work with shadow most in myself is through my body. The body in mind-body medicine, somatic work is considered the subconscious mind. It's considered the unconscious mind. It's considered the shadow. So when we have symptoms, pain, accidents come up that impact our body, it's so easy for us in our westernized analytical world where we like to stay in our happy left brain that can rationalize and use science and data to make sense of things. We like to make any kind of illness or any kind of physical challenge in our body all about the biology, and we don't want to ignore the biology. There are genetics and there are viruses and there are things that happen, and there's also signs from our subconscious mind that something's out of balance. There's something we need to address, or there's something to look at or understand or work with that's in the depths that we are not traversing. So for me, my body's always talking to me, and I have some, medical challenges that I work with. I know that it's messages from my body, from my subconscious mind that want me to address. So just like all this pain in my right pelvis that I've been trying to rid myself of for so long, I'm feeling a big shift now that I got the insight of like, oh, I'm not supposed to cut this out. I'm not supposed to shake this out. I'm not supposed to meditate this away. I'm supposed to embrace this. So working in the body is a clear channel or a clear pathway again in to your shadow, your subconscious mind. There are also beautiful tools. I love hypnosis. Yoga Nidra is a tool that takes us into the subconscious mind. Meditation definitely taps us in. That's where we're going to go in our exercise here in a moment. I really enjoy working with divination tools. These are cards, just drawing cards. It could be the tarot. It could be just divination cards that you sort of see which card speaks to you, and then whatever message is on it, you see like, oh, what does this say to me about what's going on for me right now? I think that can be a really powerful practice. I also love journaling. Now, journaling in not the listing of everything that's going on from my linear analytical mind. That can be useful, like the brain dump. But how I access my unconscious mind through journaling is more automatic writing. So I'll either do it on my computer, where I will just set a timer for 10 minutes and write, don't stop, don't stop. I actually feel sometimes doing it more with paper and pencil does allow me to access it. And sometimes I will even use my non-dominant hand. So I'll write a question to my subconscious mind with my right hand, which is my dominant hand, and I will write the answer with my left hand. It looks like chicken scratch. It looks messy, but it accesses another part of my brain where the answer comes from that sometimes shocks me. So using sort of automatic writing tools can be really helpful. Another tool that I didn't, actually there's a couple, I put it on here, dream work. Hands down, dream work. I worked with a dream analyst for many, many years. I have a colleague now that we literally share our dreams with each other every week. Dreams are direct symbols, messages from your subconscious shadow mind. There's so much in dream work that can be of deep guidance to us. So I'm such a fan of dream work. And the other thing I didn't put on here, but I want to add, is psychedelic medicine. There's a lot of research coming out in the field, beautiful research on the power of psychedelics to really help people heal depression, anxiety, trauma, PTSD, addiction. And it seems to me, I've been reading a lot about it, that part of the mechanism is getting underneath sort of this executive functioning and getting into parts of the brain that we don't have access to in our daily, waking life. And so there's a chance to really dip into the subconscious mind using these medicines, and I believe using them with highly trained therapists who know what they're doing. All right, so I want to take us now into the realm of the shadow. We're going to do this in two different ways. This first way is quick and dirty way. And it may not fully speak to you, but I do find that this can be a really effective way for us to just know and check in with our shadow. If you want to close your eyes, you can, but just bring to mind someone you cannot stand. This could be someone you know personally. This could be someone in the news or the media. And then bring to mind someone you idolize. So both of those answers, whatever they were, might have some clues for you about your own shadow. Typically, the people we don't like, we push them away. There are aspects of their personality that are in us. This can be a really hard one. And often we need a neutral third party, a therapist, or someone else helping us see it. If there's a political leader we hate, and then we said, I don't carry any of that person's qualities. That could be true. So this quick and dirty way to look at your shadow doesn't always fully translate, but it can be really useful. That often, especially aspects in partners or people in our life, if we really dig in and say, like, why does that drive me crazy? There often is an aspect of that that's in us. Likewise, when we idolize someone, when we believe someone's got it all figured out, we want to be like someone else, that's because we see aspects and qualities in them that are in us, that are unacknowledged, that are unreached for, right? So when there's really someone that we see like, wow, they're really doing something in the world, I really believe that, I'm in awe of them. There are aspects of that person that live in us that we just have not fully embraced. So that can be a quick way for us to just start to do like a little dip into our shadow. But I'd love to take us all a bit deeper now using a meditation, using our bodies as the grounds for listening in, tapping into our own shadow in a deeper way. But I do want to just take a moment to answer a couple questions, because what I notice is that when we go into an altered state of consciousness, which we will, it's often hard to come out and go back into our linear left brain, which is where the questions come from. So I think I'll take about 5 minutes now to answer a couple questions, and then we'll go into our experiential exercise, so that afterwards, if you're in a different space, or you want to journal, or you just want to sit on your own, you're not trying to flip back into your left brain to formulate a question. Joe asked the question, any comments on using psychedelics to explore the shadow? You might have asked that before I went into it. Yeah, I think it's a really powerful tool to explore our shadow. Psychedelics have the power to take us into parts of our psyche that we might not otherwise have access to. In fact, and I'm not an expert on this, I just have a curiosity about it, but I have seen MRI images of people's brains that are on psychedelics and people's brains that are not. And the amount of interconnectivity and lighting up of all different parts of the brain in communication, in connection, in concert together is amazing. So we know that these medicines somehow connect all these different aspects of our brain, which I think allows us to access the shadow, allows us to access the subconscious. Margaret put in a tarot deck she likes, The Path of Light. Thanks for that. I don't know that one. It does sound really good. Any other questions in particular about the shadow before we move into just maybe doing a little exploration of it ourselves and seeing where it takes us? No matter how much I explore and go into my shadow, there's always something new. There's absolutely patterning that I see. It's like I can now see my patterns. Not all of them. There's a lot in there that I don't know about yet. But any little work we do, whether it's working with a dream image that came through, whether it's journaling about why we were so triggered by X, Y, or Z, any of these exercises are a way for us to, again, just make a little more contact. And one of the other things I want to drive home today is that if your subconscious mind, if your shadow gives you information about some action it wants you to take, you have to follow through on it. And I would say also, by the way, intuition lives in this subconscious realm. So we could even in many ways interchange intuition, shadow, subconscious. It's sort of all in the same realm. But when you are guided by your shadow, by your subconscious mind to take action on something, in fact, just this week, my subconscious mind asked me to take action on something. I haven't done it, but I'm planning to do it this afternoon. You want to follow through on things, because essentially it's building trust between you and the subconscious mind, so that the subconscious mind keeps feeding you information, keeps bringing you in. So it is this, it is like a dance. It's a relationship. It's a friendship, right? We want to know the subconscious mind. And really, I believe the subconscious mind wants to provide us information so that we suffer less, so that we align more with our life purpose. So we're engaged in activities that guide us where we need to be going. So I really think the subconscious mind, the shadow, is our ally if we are willing to do the work to be in contact with it. It's a really good question that I think any time of the year is good time for shadow work. Again, I think it's the most transformative work we can do on ourselves, is to work with our shadow. So, and I would say there are times in our lives where the shadow definitely is knocking more, saying, pay attention. So at the point in time when I turned 40 and my body got super inflamed and had all kinds of symptoms, my shadow was like, it's time, Betsy, you got to start to move in and pay attention to us. Excuse me. But I do believe that the winter months, if you live in the northern hemisphere, have they're holding more energetic containment for us to go in and down and do the shadow work. There's just more darkness, there's more rest, there's more quiet. I find in myself, it is sometimes harder to do the deep inner work when it's summer and there's light until 9 p.m. and I want to ride my bike and I want to play with my kids and I want to grill late. There's just a lot more happening in the summer. We're more worldly in the summer. We're more engaged with nature and the world around us typically in the summer months. Winter is a more quiet time. So I do think there is something about the season that we're in, which is also why one of the reasons I offered this conversation today, this is key time to go in and do the shadow work. And again, if you want a little more guidance on it, maybe Sean, you can put this in the chat box. We are in the middle of Reclaim, which is this 9-week heroine's journey. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. We all have a heroine in us. We all have a hero in us. There is some guidance about going in and down so that we can make contact with these parts of ourselves and reclaim them during these dark weeks. All right, let's do good questions, everyone. Let's go a little bit into our shadow. And again, if you can't sort of close your eyes and go in and down right now, this will be posted on YouTube. And in the show notes, we'll put the timestamp of when this exercise begins so that you can access it later. I really encourage you. It's not going to be long. It's going to be less than 15 minutes, but it's an opportunity for you just to pop in today, pop into that subconscious mind and see what's there. What is speaking to me? Is there some knowledge or guidance that's there for me that I can access? All right. I am feeling a little bit of music today, so I'm going to bring in a little bit of drumming. I think sometimes adding in some background can help us drop in faster. And since we're doing this over the course of just a very short period of time, we will work with a little bit of sound as well. All right. So I'm going to encourage you to close your eyes and start to feel your awareness moving in and down. What I mean by that is you feel your attention pull in towards the center of your being and start to drop down. So as you drop your attention down, you might feel more sensation or awareness in your pelvis or all the way down to your feet. Sean, if you can't hear this music, if you could reach out again to me and let me know, that would be great. So as we're continuing to pull our awareness in and down, I want you now to imagine that surrounding you is a circle of light. So this might be a circle of candles. Yeah, we're all not able to hear the sound very well of this drumming, which I'm a little confused about. I'm going to try something else here. And if it doesn't come through, it might not be meant to be. Do you all hear it a little bit better now? I just turned it up quite a bit. Anyone has any comment for me, that's great. Otherwise, we're not going to worry about it. Okay. So the sound is really quiet with the drumming. It's really loud on my end. So I'm going to turn it off altogether and use that as a sign that we're actually supposed to do this in silence. So letting go of needing to hear any drumming, and instead dropping in and down and actually hearing the sound of your breath. So take a couple conscious inhales and exhales, and on the exhale, maybe creating a ha sound, like you are creating the sound of the ocean in the back of the throat. So your awareness is in and down. Your awareness is down in your pelvis or down in your feet. You're hearing the sound of your breath in the back of the throat. And you're imagining that surrounding you is a circle of light. Could even be a sphere of light. We're creating a sense of grounding. We're creating a sense of safety. And from this place, on this next exhale, feel your body relax just a little more. You might feel your shoulders drop down. You might feel your belly soften. You might feel your face unclench and relax. We're going to take a journey into our body in a much deeper, more conscious way. As we move through this process, an encouragement that your left linear analytical brain is going to want to take over. It will move into judgment. It will move into doubt. When that happens, acknowledge it and allow yourself to soften back and down. Conscious mind will want to get in here and make sense of what's happening. And I'm encouraging you just to attempt to stay in sensation, imagery, awareness, feeling. Later on, you can bring in that left brain to make sense of it, or maybe not make sense of it. But for now, we're just encouraging that analytical mind to be in the back seat. So from this more grounded, safe space, I want you to take a moment to scan through your body. You could start at your feet and move up to your head, or you could start at your head and move down to your feet. And as you're scanning through the body, notice if there is a part of the body that is really calling to you. Meaning the sensation is more apparent. It might be burning, it might be stuck feeling, it might be pain. But let your subconscious wise mind draw you to an area in the body where you are carrying some constriction, some tightness, where something is stuck. And trust that wherever you are first drawn is where you can settle. Of course, there can be multiple areas in our body that carry tension and stuckness, but wherever you're drawn, just trust the process. That's where you can land your attention. And now, once you find that area of stuckness, I want you to stay there and see if you can feel more sensation, almost as if you're shining a light onto this stuck area. And what also might begin to come up for you, or what you can begin to access, is any other information about this stuckness in your body. Maybe a color or an image or a texture or a shape come up for you. So in some ways, we want this stuckness in the body to show itself, to manifest in different forms. So just stay curious about what images, feelings, textures, colors, temperatures rise up for you as you stay tuned in to this area of the body that is holding constriction. You don't have to go into the center of the constriction. You can be a curious observer with a little bit of distance. Not only feeling this sensation, but observing it in different ways, the symbolism, the colors. You can even ask, show me. And whatever image, whatever color, whatever sensation comes up for you, we amazingly can dialogue with this aspect of constriction in ourselves. You can ask this constricted part, what do I need to know? What do you need? What do you want? So giving the subconscious, giving this constricted aspect of your body space to speak. If you notice there's a lot of emotion, anger, sadness, see if you can move a little deeper into hearing from your shadow what it wants from you, what it needs, why it's present in your life. Our shadow often speaks to us in symbols, image. So if the symbols or the images don't make sense right now in the moment, trust that perhaps somewhere down the road it will make more sense. Right now, you're just in the experience. Now, if your shadow has asked for something that you can give it, by all means, offer it up. But if this constriction, this aspect of your shadow, if it's something that you can't necessarily provide to it, you can always offer love and acceptance, kindness, compassion. Remember, when we work with our shadow, we are wanting to embrace it, integrate it, listen to it, Treat it more as an ally than an enemy. And then it's very helpful that once you have seen, experienced, acknowledged a part of your shadow, aspect of this constriction in your body, that you acknowledge that you see it, that you are aware of its presence, that you will return to work with it, speak with it, learn from it again. And to thank it for anything that it's trying to teach you, even if you don't fully understand the lesson yet. Whatever you felt or visualized in the body, we're going to begin to leave it in peace. You can imagine or feel it dissipating now. Coming back to your own breath in your own body, feeling your feet on the ground. Taking in a deeper breath. And as you stay in this receptive state, I'd like to offer a powerful affirmation that you can repeat to yourself right now. You can either repeat it out loud if you're in a space that's appropriate to do. You could repeat it internally. So may all my imbalances be balanced. May my confusion be eliminated. May the dark and light sides of myself be balanced. And may I be able to use the gifts hidden in my shadow for the benefit of all beings. Whenever we do any kind of shadow work, it's beautiful to bring hands to heart or hands in front of the heart. And just bow towards yourself. Acknowledge the courageous part of you, the intrepid, curious explorer who's willing to go in and down, reclaim, understand, see, befriend, integrate. So just taking that time to really bow and acknowledge yourself for showing up for this type of work today. Namaste. All right. Thanks everyone for being here. I'm going to stay on for a couple more minutes. So if anyone does have anything they want to share from that experience, or you have any questions, you're sort of transitioning right now from your right brain, which is more of your intuitive meditative brain, maybe integrating a little bit more again with your rational linear brain. So again, sometimes it is hard to formulate questions at this point, but I'm here. So if anyone has anything, I'm going to stay. I'm going to blow my nose. Thanks, Jennifer, for being on. Thanks, Regina. Thanks, Erin. Thanks, Mary. Way to keep going with this. Yes, I would say that for all of us, shadow work, if you choose to embark on it, is forever. We don't get to ever be done with it, which I think, again, we can reframe as something beautiful. There's so much of us that we can continue to know and reclaim throughout an entire lifetime. Erin, sometimes colors that come up do relate to the chakras. Sometimes they don't. Red is the root, orange is the second, yellow is the third, green is the fourth. Sort of blue is the fifth, purple is the sixth, white is the seventh. But, you know, that's why when we're working with our own subconscious mind, it does speak to us in symbols, colors, animals, you know, just like our dreams are all symbols. You know, you can buy those books of symbols and they can be good starting points, but I would say once you start to get to know the landscape of your own psyche, you start to understand your own symbols. So for some people, Erin, the colors might really align with the chakra system. For other people, red might be more the color of the heart than the root. So there is this power of like using your own intuition to determine whether the symbol that come up matches with the symbol dictionary or not. So whenever I have dream symbols that I've never had before, I will sometimes like go into my Google and just say, what's the symbolism of a blue jay? A blue jay showed up for me this week. And then I'll read about the symbolism of the blue jay, and not everything feels like it aligns with my experience, but there will be things that tend to like tap into something, or there's some energy with it. I pay attention to those. Someone made a comment that they felt a lot of tension in their body and felt this need to let go of control. And when they could pull back a little bit and surrender, that's really helpful. And that's such an important point. Not only is it sort of in and down, is this process of going into our shadow, but it is going back as well. So thank you for that comment, Brenda. I notice in myself when I'm really in my ego self, I'm very forward, like my energy is forward, my eyes are forward. So I will often catch that and be like, pull back, Betsy. It's like I can feel my eyes pull back. I feel my energy pull back. And as soon as I do that, there is more surrender and I think a little more access to subconscious mind. So thank you for that, Brenda. I really appreciate it. Margaret, I love what your shadow told you. Go do it. Tina, such a good point. Shadows reveal their layers over time. Totally. And just because you don't get the message from your shadow the first time, it's going to keep coming around, and not in a negative way. I think our shadow is our ally. It's our truth teller. It's there to help us evolve. It's not an enemy in any way. So if you don't get the message of the shadow the first or the 30th or the 100th time, it's going to come back around. And there is that trusting of the process of shadow work that's really powerful. All right. Any other questions or comments? I really love reading what all of you share, and I really love that you're also committed to doing this work and listening in and learning new things and dropping into different states of being. I know I'm a little biased, but I think it's where it's at. I think it's where we have the potential to heal ourselves and then heal the world, is not from what's above the surface, but what's below the surface. I'm a big, big believer in that. Someone said they learned about the shadow via a dream, or at least part of your shadow, a black crow attacking you. And that's really powerful. The image of the black crow. I've read about crow energy, and it's powerful energy. So there your shadow is saying, we are attacking you, not, and it might have felt negative at the time, but like, wake up, wake up. We have information for you. We want you to pay attention. That's why also sometimes these dreams that wake us up in the middle of the night, and they're so clear and we have so many details, are such a call to us, such a call to action. Wendy, the fact that the crow keeps coming back, so beautiful. I mean, I actually have chills right now as you said that. That is such a powerful symbol. I also think crows tend to be there around death. And the beauty about shadow work is it's all about death and rebirth, death and rebirth, death and rebirth. I mean, we're all going through death cycles all the time. So what a powerful symbol for you. It's really, really great stuff. Yeah. Yeah. So keep watching the synchronicities, the symbols. I have certain number sequences that always show up for me. I'm always, almost every single day, I happen to get behind a car that's got 3-3 on their license plate or a truck that's got it on the back of the truck. I'm always following the number 3-3. It happens almost every single day. 3-3 is a powerful number for me. So whenever I see that, you know, that number sequence, I know that I'm in alignment or I need to be paying attention, or, you know, my subconscious, the other side, my intuition is trying to speak to me. So when we start to know the symbols that show up for us or speak to us, it's really, we can, you know, I feel like the other side is always trying to speak to us, whether we think of it as our subconscious mind or the realms beyond us. There's always some attempt at communication. So once we can begin to sort of decode what the symbols mean or how we're being encouraged to listen, it's powerful stuff, and it makes life really exciting. It makes, at least for me, so curious what's going to show up, what dream's going to come next, what's going to show up in my life, what's going to trigger me next. It's interesting when I have triggers now, which I of course do. They're really curious for me, like, why did I get so upset by that? Why was I so, why did I have so much energy in my body when that person said that? It's like, oh, there's another clue for me to reclaim another part of myself that I've pushed down. So I find it very exciting work and no longer scary. Although I still have a what would I say? A humbleness. It's like working with the goddess Kali. I respect and love that energy, but I'm also got sort of humble boundaries around it as well, right? So, oh, I love Margaret. I love that book so much. I've told a lot of people about that book. Thank you for bringing it up. It's such a powerful book, Signs. It's lots of examples in there of how the universe speaks to us. Powerful, powerful, powerful book. Another book that I might recommend is Animals Speak. It's by a man. I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but it's all about animals that show up for you. Like the blue jay that showed up for me this week. I went to that book and read what is the symbolism of the blue jay. So yeah, starting to educate yourself on what different symbols mean can be really helpful in this process. All right, everyone. Thanks for staying on with me. Thanks for showing up for yourselves. Go share some of your light now with the world. Blessings to all of you. Peace.